Good evening. Welcome back to me writing some Haskell code. I've been working a program to effectively I give a list of people and it shuffles it into a random list and then gives me the first person in that list and then works through it. This is so I can randomize my list of colleagues so I can work through that list and talk to them because I don't really talk to anybody in work anymore. Last week I was working this program and I got it basically working. So we're in a state now where we can create a file of people and then we can run the program and it gives us a random person from that list, or rather it shuffles the list and gives me the first person in that randomized list. And then it stores the updated state back to the file, and then you run it again and it gives you the next person in the list. And then when it gets to the end of the file, so we've been through everybody, it reshuffles it into new order and then starts working through the list again. And that's pretty cool. And I actually used it this week. It was a bit clunky, but it was good enough that I could download the code, compile it, create a file with all my colleagues in it. A little bit of an issue with the indexing in there. It's a little bit clunky to use, but I ran it. It gave me a random person to talk to, and then I spoke to them. So that was a great success. Plan for today is to go back to that program and tidy it up a bit. There's some things like the file that it's using is hard coded. Well, the path to the file is hard coded. It's got a funny name, and I kind of want to extend it a bit. So I want to be able to use that program to manage the list of people, to add and remove people from it. I want to be able to run it and have it show me the current person without necessarily advancing to the next one. What else do I want to do? I think that's probably enough to get started with. And maybe actually I might want it to show me the list of all the people as well. But it's that kind of thing. So I want to take something which is basically functional and turn it into something which is more usable and does a bit more for me. And as we go as well, I'm going to start refactoring the code because the code is kind of just dumped into one file called main, apart from one function which bizarrely is in the library. So yeah, I want to tie that up as we go and just try and make it easier to use and a bit tidier. Okay, so coming back to the code that we wrote last week. What we're doing here is we have this initial state thing. What that's doing is just reading from this hard-coded file name. It is breaking it up by different lines. The first line is going to be the index. That's where we are in the file. And then the rest of it is just a list of names. And then it returns this struct back to me. This struct, language we're in, this record called names, where we set the index. We turn it back into an integer. And then we also set the list of all the people. Once we have that, we just print out where we are in the list. So it's taking the current index, just applying it to that list and saying this is where we are. And then it does this exec state, which is effectively responsible for shuffling it. So the exec state called run, which is somewhere up the top of this file. What's this doing? So it gets the names. Okay, we're giving it the names here. It gets the names. It calls new names with that. We need to lift them to IO because we potentially shuffle. And to shuffle the file, we need a new seed for the shuffling, and that we do that by getting the current time. And to get the current time, we need to be under IO. So we call new names, and what new names is doing is saying, are we at the end of our list? If we are, then we shuffle, and then we return the shuffled list, which is here, and we set the index to 0 at the start of that list. Otherwise, we don't touch names at all. All we do is we take our existing record, and we take the index from that and we increment it. Shuffling names. Just going through this because I kind of need to remember how it works. Shuffling names is getting the seed. Okay, so we get the current time, we turn it into, I think between these two, they turn it into the seconds, number of seconds in the current day or something like that. Floating is just turning it into an integer again. And then we call this shuffle function, passing in the seed, which is why we have to enter IO, and L, which is our list of names, I think. And then shuffle. Oh yes, with my terrible naming. I can't remember what to call it, so I just wrote it out literally. Okay, so how does this work? Names paired with random values is taking a list of names, list of strings in this case, and returning pairs of the name and some random value, where ours here is the random value, so we just use random r to generate effectively an arbitrarily long list. Is that right? Yeah, an arbitrarily long list of integers. Yeah, I've done it as values between 0 and the length of the list, but there's no real need to do that. I think previously when I was trying to write the shuffling, I was thinking I'd generate like one number for each position in the list, but that's not what happens. Generating random numbers, you might get the same number come back multiple times, and some numbers wouldn't appear at all. So this is probably a bit unnecessary. There might be a nice way of doing that. But anyway, so we end up with this list of pairs, and then we sort it. This sort by second thing, which is just grabbing the second element out of the list. I have a feeling, I don't know if this is true or not, I'm just going to quickly check. If I just flip this around, so we return the integer first and then the name. Oops. Let's leave that for a second. And then we'll flip this round, so the random numbers come first and then the names. And then this, we just rename to be, can we rename it? No, we cannot rename it. Okay. In that, rename it to first thing. And that's not going to work because these types are wrong, so we just flip around integer and something and another integer and something, and then we want to do first and first, and then we'll change this to be second. And that didn't change anything. For some reason I thought that if I did first and first, it was going to suggest a nicer implementation, but it didn't do that. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so this does the shuffling. Anything else in this file? Yes, okay, so we get our new state back, which has got our new list of names, new index, and then we call save state at the end. So that just basically takes our, what does it do? Okay, it takes the names out, it takes the index out, but it turns it into a string. Then it unlines, but turns it into a string with new line characters in between, and then we just write it out to this file. Okay, and that's fine if you just want to run it and generate, not generate, but like to get the next name out every single time. But like I said, I want to try and make it a bit more usable. So the first thing I might try and do is split it into a program which takes a subcommand, which is going to be, I guess by default, if you don't put a command in, I'll just get it to show you the current person. And if you type next, so run it as auto next, then it will, what will it do? It will do this shuffling, this current behavior. So that's what I want to put in place. Okay, so to do that, I Actually, I'm going to do a little bit of refactoring first because this people2 I don't like. I certainly don't like the fact it's repeated in the file, and it's not going to be the final file name I use. I could just do something like, at the top level, define file name to be whatever, people2 in this case. But I don't really want to do that. I want to do something a little bit different because later on I want to be able to pass in a command line argument or some kind of fly, I guess, to specify which file to use. So I'm going to create a new data type called autoconfig. And for now, I'm going to make a record containing a single element, which is something like file path, why not? Which is a string. Use new data type instead of data. Why not new type? It decreases laziness. Okay. Sure. Oops. Why not? Don't generate fill comments. Oh, that's annoying. It's giving me this hint, but the quick fix doesn't seem to be the fix for that. So I have to type in new type. Terrible. Okay, so we have our config with the file path, and then I might do something like auto state. Don't see this. Let me just write on it and see if I want to do it. State. It's going to complain again because I've done the same thing, but here we're going to have config, which is file path. No, file path. What am I doing? Sorry, it's config. Its type is autoconfig, and I might just put in. Actually, this type I defined earlier called names somewhere. I might just end up putting these values inside. So I'll put idx, which is an integer of some kind, and names, which is a list of names, and just say type name is a string, and then it's going to go and get rid of this for a second. It's going to cause quite a few errors. Oops. Type name equals string. String. Okay. Okay. So we now have this. This is the state that we can pass around. Now I can do my initial state. I think I want a function called load config. Let's call it that for now. We can always rename it. The load config is going to be really simple. It will just return autoconfig for now. It'll be less simple in future, I think, if we start parsing command line arguments. But for now, we can just say autoconfig, and then file path is, keep it at people2 for now, but I'll probably change that at some point. Say that for me. Okay. and then load state. Actually, I'm just going to use initial state, but that will take the config. So initial state up here, I'm going to go from the config object, return a list of names, but it's not going to be names anymore. It's actually going to be an auto state. Okay, so we're not going to read file people2. We're going to read file of, need to pass in the config here. So the file path of C. We'll do the same thing, and we'll return auto state where config is C, config C, and then the rest of the arguments are the same. For save state, I don't want to go from names anymore, I want to go from auto state. We'll do the same thing, but when we're writing it, we'll write it to the file path of C. Okay, so it's no longer it's the index of NS, but NS is not set, so it's actually the index of C and the names of C. That's okay. Okay. So we do our loading the config, we do our saving the state, and then we want to do something in between. Okay, so what I think I want to do is have some kind of function which function, what have I typed function before? Some kind of function which is like parse, or maybe run command, and it will take a list of strings. So these will be the rest of the command line that I type in, and it's going to return the auto config. I think. So run command. What I'm thinking I can do here is, if I give it an empty list, then we just want to run show current of autoconfig. Can I pattern match inside here? So could I say next? We don't care what comes after it. Is what should we call this? We'll call this next. Next person. To call it next. Auto config. And run command of anything else. We will say show usage. We also return the config. This is a bit annoying. Yeah, what I'm thinking is we would always load the state and always save the state, but maybe that's not necessary actually. Maybe I could stop returning it. So this subcommand will be responsible for deciding whether or not it's going to save the state. Okay, so we need to just write implementations of these things. So we can say show current. What does this do? It goes from autoconfig. Doesn't return anything. So show current of C is equal to, let's just put strlen current person is, and then oops, try and get this right, sorry. That's when the current person is, and then we will find the person. So this is names is what underneath names of the config. Names of the config applied to sorry, with the index element of that, IDX of that. Hi Alex. Okay. That's showing current person. Next, we'll come back to in a second, but it takes an auto config and we execute it under IO. It'll get a little bit funky, I think. So next is the minute. We'll ignore everything. We'll just put strlen finding the next person. I wonder if you can hear my keyboard as I'm typing. Actually, I tried to make it quite quiet, but I'm not sure how quiet it is. Show usage, doesn't take anything, executes under IO. Show usage, put strlen. Ooh, is it capital L? It is capital L, so I've messed that one up. Put strlen usage. I'm going to say auto next is the option argument. Okay, and then I'm just going to go up here, and it's a little bit of a mess because I've renamed something, but I think I can just now grab names and rename it to autoconfig, and it should keep working. Autoconfig is not out of constructor, that was a mistake. Rename that to auto state. Okay. So I have an initial config here when I'm returning it, and it's the config of config of n. I might also rename this. I don't think I can rename a variable with this helper, so I have to do it by hand. It's terrible. Luckily, the compiler helps me out here. Thank you, compiler. Okay. And here, couldn't actually expect to type autoconfig with actual type. Show me the whole error. Couldn't actually expect to type autoconfig with actual type auto state. Oh, that's true because file path is more deeply nested than that. So I can just say, oops, just call this path, something like where path equals, what was it? Sorry, this is path. No, I've got access to C. I don't need to pass it in. So path is equal to file name of config of C. File name of, oops, config of C. Is that right with it? Did I call it file path? Is that why it's upset? I did. Okay. That should hopefully be enough to get it compiled now. No, it's streaming. This does not take a config, it needs to take a state. This also needs to take a state. I need to ignore it for now. I will use it in a second. Here, we're going to take, oops, this state. Okay. So here we're going to grab the state. And oops. Here also we're going to grab the state. And here we're going to ignore the state. It's a bit awkward, isn't it? So show current. We'll take the state. Take the state. Okay, I think I'm out of errors now. So down here, I want to say get initial state and then run command. Takes the state and then takes the arguments. I've done this before. I think there's a function called getArgs or something. From base, that's cool. So getArgs will return me a list of strings. Okay. So right here, I can say that's the state. Args is getArgs. And this takes args. What is its problem? Variable not in scope. Ooh, give me that. Import system environment getArgs. Good. I think. Okay. So we get the initial state, we get the command line arguments, and then we will pass those into run command. I'm not going to do these lines. So that should be enough. Okay, let's run that and see what happens. Current person is Marilyn. If I run it again, you should still say current person is Marilyn. Yep. I'm just going to change this command to be stack build, I think. Then I'll create a terminal up for running it so I can pass in arguments. Okay, so tasks. You edit the tasks in here. Okay, so my default build command will now be stack build. Might as well rename this. I'll probably upset VS Code, but that's just life. Try and build it. No, it was totally happy with that. We're good. Okay, it builds fine. Let's get rid of that And let's add a new shell. So I should be able to say something like stack run from here. Actually tell me it's Marilyn. And then if I say run le, it should tell me that that's not cool. I don't wonder why that Y is a different color. Very strange. It tells me what the usage is. And then if we say next, find the next person. Okay, it doesn't do it yet, but it at least picks up the arguments. So that's kind of cool. I feel like there must be lots of libraries in Haskell to help with this kind of thing. And in particular, I think show usage is a bit weird. How much of the functionality the VS Code server brings, like auto-writing code, etc. Yeah, the VS Code experience I'm really enjoying, actually. It's quite modern and helpful, and its language server integration is really good. So when I'm editing tasks, this is really cool. If you say something like, I already have a presentation block, so I can't add another one, but just give it that for a second. I can go problem matcher. Oh, that's really boring, actually. It was the group stuff. It all filled in for me. It was really cool when I did it. Some of the stuff with the language helper in Haskell is really good as well, and can write chunks or rewrite chunks of my code for me, but it's a little bit new. It's got a way to go yet. Okay, so I have this basic usage, so I'll try and get next to work. So next is really going to be this thing I did before, run state. It was down here, wasn't it? It's exec state, sorry, to get the new state out, and then save state. So what I want to do is let's just make it the same for now. I'll come back to this in a second. So we can say paste. That. Okay. So next is going to take the state, which is S here. We just run it. I don't think what we want to do is show current of NS, and then we'll save the state. So I bring this back up. Oh, sorry, I need to build it first. I don't need to build it first, it would have rebuilt it for me. But anyway, back to here, and we go stack run next. It should now say the next person. Betty J, is that the right person? Let's have a quick look at people too. So we were Marilyn, we're now Betty J. Run it again, and it should be Ruth. Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's working. So we now have to be able to pass in sort of subcommands of what we want the program to do, and we can also get it to show us what the current person is, as well as advancing to the next person. It's quite handy because I ran it today and it told me who the next person was, and then I couldn't run it again to tell me again because it would have advanced beyond that. I had lost the original window. So I think most of the time when I run it, I want to just tell me who it is, and then occasionally, well, not occasionally, but after I speak to someone, to then run next, and it'll move on to the next person. Okay. What's next? I don't know whether to try and refactor some of this code or whether to keep going and add more commands. I might add more commands to get more of a feel for what the overall thing looks like. Just so that, actually one thing I might do is I'm passing in two things here. I'm passing in the state object and the args, but I'm wondering if the args just become part of the state. So let's let's go, sorry, if I go up and find the state up here, get the config, I might just put the args in here. And in fact, I might call this commands. It's a list of strings. So when we load the config, it's fine, that doesn't change. When we, where's the initial state? Initial state here. I think I want to say args comes from get args. And then we can say config is that, commands is args. Now get the index and the name. Down here we can then ditch args from here. We can ditch that as well. We can ditch this. And then we want to pattern match against the record now. Oh goodness. So can we do, does this work? Command equals, wouldn't be S here, then it would be auto state. This would be, oops, auto state. Commands equals next. And then that would be everything else. Okay, almost. So commands is not empty string, it's empty list, and that's a list containing exactly next for now. Okay, getting there a little bit. So we can say, oops, s at and s at just to capture s, so I can pass it in to the next thing. And then here, I think what I can do is say initial state and then that, oops, that. So load config. We load the initial state from that config and then we run the command. And there's no reason to put load config there, I don't think. Oops. Just got to initial state, which I've lost. I need to tidy this up a bit so that they're near each other. We just load the config. And say let C equal what were we doing before? Load config. Where's load config? Where did I write that? So it doesn't take any arguments in a minute, it just turns to config. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to leave it like that because I think I might make it a bit more complex in the future. Okay, so down here now, we take initial state and then we call run command. Almost. Initial state. Initial state didn't change the type signature, I don't think. No. Delete that. Delete that. There's no C. Okay. So this is a bit messy, but we can come back to it later, I think. I'm going to get rid of let, just slightly annoyed me there. Just pop it down there to be more consistent. Then can I drop the do? Where where's J gone? There. Okay, so save state is just write file path new names, and that's where you get those from. That's cool. I think up here, new names is upset. What I might do is instead of creating a new struct, I can just, I think, do this. So we'll take the previous state and we'll just override index new names. Okay, does that build? It does. Cool. So I don't think I've changed very much. Just make sure it still works. Just say Ruth again. They should say whoever's after Ruth. Okay. Okay. And they pass in some nonsense. Why are the F and the E different colors? Who even knows? At least tells me what the usage is. Okay. Right. That's kind of cool. What I might do, I've been really bad at this, but I might actually just commit the changes. So that's just changing the default task. I change build task to build, not run. These are more interesting. So this is kind of, well, actually changing the state. I don't want to check that in. What are we doing here in lib? I might just commit this as pointless refactoring, because I don't really know what I was doing there. Okay, this is more interesting. So here we add subcommands to auto. So default got an L in it. Default command is now to show the current person, and new command of next to advance to next person, and then we refactored the code as we want along the way. Okay. I think I can even push it upstream. Yay, go Git. Okay. Right. Next one, I want to add something for adding someone to the list. So this is where it gets messy. I kind of think that I should be able to give definitions of commands and it should generate this usage thing for me. I think that'd be interesting to write, but I'll probably do it next week. We can go add name. That was something I was missing last time. So s at auto state commands equals how to match this and say it's name, that's valid or not, and then we can say add s. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? I don't really like the way I'm matching this. Like it works, but it doesn't feel very nice. Right, what this is going to take? It's going to take. I might extract the name, even though it's available in the state. I might explicitly pass it in. So auto state and the name. Yeah, we have a type for name. That's cool. we take state and the name, and we are going to return something under IO. So what we will do here is we can say something like new state so we got state and name. It's just going to be names is equal to the names of S plus new name. In fact, I'm going to say save state in S where that. Okay, plus plus n, that's not right. Could do that. Seems messy. Is there a command to add to the end of a list? Some kind of append. Don't know what mappend is. That's Google, I guess. I really want to go from list of A and an A to list of A. Come on, Google. Does not like that search for some reason. First of all, what's mappend? Oh. Change lasts knock. Wow. There are a lot of things that match that. I don't want columns, I want the other way around. What does mappend do? Not what I'm looking for. So A is a monoid. That's just adding to the ends of monoid, I presume. So in this case, A would be a list. A would also be a list, and I'm giving back a new list with the two things joined together. Yeah, that's not really what I want. Okay, I'll just leave it like that. It's good enough for now. Okay, so in theory, this should then add something to the end of my list. The other one I want to do, mostly for debugging purposes, but we can say list auto state and then put something under IO. And here we want to say we're going to print it out. So how are we going to print this out? Put string names are and then put string we need to grab state of for now I stay on lines of names of S. It's not going to be very pretty, but it should kind of work. I can't read commands. I wanted to replicate the line, but it's different on Windows for some reason. Okay, so just quickly add list. And here we want to just say list S. Okay. Put it in here. We can fix this next week, maybe. Build. So, oh, you done? Yeah, good. So I can say stack run list. Those are names. Stack run add Bob. Stack run list. Should have Bob in the file. Cool. That makes it a little bit easier to add people one at a time. Let's commit that, like good people. So add commands to add to and should list is really awkward English. Anyway, not great commit messages. I'm curious about this. So in theory, names is a list of strings, and then I wonder if I can just map over those. And what do we want to do? What I want to do is just put something at the start of it. And what I want to put at the start of it is \t. I mean, it's not amazing, but it might work. Yeah, cool. A bit ugly. I think maybe not. Rather than that, we can just do that. Maybe just look a little bit nicer. Cool. Slightly easier to make out what the names actually are. Okay, so I can add to the list. I can show the list. I can show the current person, and I can advance the list to the next person. So I was just thinking, I wonder if we could show the current person when we're listing it. That would make my map a bit more difficult, because I want to take the current one and replace part of it. I don't know if that's worth it right now. Maybe, oh, it's an interesting challenge. So I wonder if I can let me say, let me create a function called add prefix, which is going to take I'm going to say it's going to take a string, but that's not quite what I want the index as well. I kind of want map with index. Is there a map with index? Is out of curiosity? There isn't Ruby, so obviously it'll be in Haskell as well. That's how these things work. There is. Well, that's handy. Okay. It is in containers, so I think I might need to import data sequence actually. Okay, so add prefix to have you got any suggestions what to call these things? No. The index and the name. What are we doing? Type of this. right, it's going to take an integer and a name, and it's going to return a string. Add prefix. Okay. So if we pattern match here using the IDX of S and the name, and for that I will put this n and add I don't know, I can do this. That's annoying. Oh, sorry. I think about the brackets, but I kind of want to match it on, let's say, current, and anything else, an n is equal to that. How much redundant? And then additionally, we'll say current is equal to the IDX of S. Stop doing this. So, if I wrap that up like that, is that what's complaining about it? No. Determinant of arguments. Okay, I can't write point free for one of the two of them. Pattern match is redundant in an equation. Is this because current would actually just match anything? It's not using this value. So what? Maybe I can't do it in a county structure. Maybe I need to write it as a guard. So add prefix I and N, where I is equal to IDX of S. What's the syntax for this? Is that the right syntax for a guard? No. No. Can't remember the syntax for writing a guard. Oops. Haskell guard. Syntax. It should just be comparison and then equals what I thought I wrote. Otherwise, a special thing that matches anything, or just a convention for matching an argument. They've got two things here. Now it should be fine. So we've captured the two variables. We have a comparison. Is my comparison right? Like, is that a comparison? Stack GHCI. Can you say 1 is equal to 2, false. Oh, that's fine. So my comparison should be okay. Okay, so what's gone wrong here? Why is it not like this? Is it really that it doesn't like, or is it just what it's telling me about? Yeah, matches are non-exhaustive. Okay. Oh, sorry, the guard syntax is like this. I need that to serve every guard. And I've typed in random star. Okay, that's a bit better. Right, so instead of mapping with this, I can say add prefix, but I need to say map with index. And then, oh, where is it? Data.sequence. Is that not available for me? I need to include containers. Data.sequence. It's fine, but it doesn't know what that is. Okay. So packages. We want containers. What version is this? 0651. 0.6.5. 06 is probably good enough. Oops. And less than 1. Assume there's no breaking changes. Oops. Go back to there, build it, see if it can find the sequence for me now. Ooh. What's that error about? Just going to kick the language server. To make sure it's imported the sequence. It's reloaded. I can hear the fans going. Okay. So we're going to find list. Right. So map with index. Map with index takes a function which takes int AB and a sequence. Oh, can you just do it to any little foldable? General purpose find sequences, okay. I don't think I want this. Is there another map with index? It's much called agda. Wow. Type I want is a function with int to A to B to some kind of foldable foldable A. So we do list of A. No. Haskell map with index. I don't want it to be a sequence. I just want it to be a normal list. map with key. That takes a map. I don't want data.map. It's a sequence from list. Maybe I could just use that. Construction. So from this we'll do that, okay. Seems a bit awkward, but anyway, let's try that. So you can say from list names of S. Import that. Okay, what's the problem now? So okay, map with index returns me a sequence. So I go to list again. Maybe import that. Does that even compile? No errors, so it should be fine. Okay. And then if I stop doing that, focus there. If I run list, yay, kinda. Well, it's a lot of effort, but it did work in the end. I might make that a bit more obvious. I don't know if that's more obvious or not. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so you can see who the current person is, which should be backed up by just running its own. Should say K. Cool. If we do next, it should say Bob. Oops. The end is a different color. Okay, and run it again. It should shuffle the list. So I'll just quickly run list, see what the current thing is, and we run next. Wait for that for a second, and then run list again. Then we should now have a different list. Yes, we do. So it resorts. Okay, that's cool. Okay. Let's just pop there. What did we change here? We only thing we did was to get the list to show the current person, which is more awkward than I thought. Okay. So show current person when listing the names. How are we doing? We've just gone 10 o'clock. So push upstream. I might stop at that point. Okay, so I have now a slightly more usable thing. Oh, one change I want to make before I forget. If I go to package.yaml, so the executable says it by default calls it auto.exe, which I don't want. I just want it called auto. So if I build it now, it should register auto at the end rather than registering auto.exe. I think that's right. That's what I need to do. So I did stack build, copy bins. Is there a dry run for this? I wonder. Find out in a second. Nothing to build. Would install auto. That's cool. That's just really annoying. I compiled it and I had to set auto.exe, and it's not cool. It's a few extra characters for no reason. So here we rename binary to auto. Stream. Okay, I'm going to stop at that point. Yeah. So we have now the ability to pass in subcommands. I want to come back and look at this next week, I think. And I think generally I want to start, like, this is horrible. I want to see which bits of code we can tidy up. I don't need to do here. I could just write out using bind. Yeah, I'm going to tidy it up. I'll maybe put in separate files. I want to write. Yeah, I want to make this sort of give it a list of definitions of commands. So what the name of the command is, what arguments they take, what function to run, and get it to generate this usage for me by default, and probably this matching thing by default as well. That might end up being really difficult, so I might not succeed, but I'll have a look at it. I could also maybe swap it out for some kind of built-in command matching thing. I want to write a variation on add where it reads from stood in a new line separated list of people. So I can take a long list of people and then just sort of paste it in, basically, or pipe it through this, or redirect into this. But yeah, I'll pick it up next week. But otherwise, it's more usable now, and I'm making progress, which is cool. Cool. So thanks for watching, and I will maybe see you next week. Bye.